Hi, we're going to be finding the area of a circle today. And so the rule for finding the area of a circle is take the radius and square it and times it by pi. Remember that squaring is not the same thing as doubling. Squaring means radius times pi. When we were finding circumference earlier in the week, it was doubling the radius or using the diameter. That's not the same thing as squaring the radius, which is the radius times pi. That's the only thing that's really tricky, and we need to remember what is a radius. So we learned early in the chapter that the radius is from the center to the edge, where the diameter is all the way across. And if we're given a diameter, we can just cut it in half to find the radius. The radius is from here to the edge. So we can just cut the diameters in half. And we're going to see that on this first example that's already done for us. So this is a diameter, and what we're looking for is the radius. So what we need is 12, and we're going to do 12 times pi. That's where I got the 144. So this is what we call the exact answer, what a scientist would use if they're doing a rocket to Mars. But most of the time, all we need is a close estimation, and we're going to use 3.14 for the pi. Don't use the pi button on your calculator. It will get you too many decimal places. Just type in 3.14. It'll help you memorize it. So 144 is 12 times 12, and then times it by 3.14. Pay attention if the worksheet wants you to round it to any type of special decimal point. Okay. So let's try one on our own. So find the area in terms of pi using the approximation 3.14 for pi. So they want us to do it both ways. Okay, so my rule I'm going to start with is radius squared pi. That's what area is. I'm going to start with that. Area is equal to radius times pi. So I'm going to plug into my formula. My radius is 5. My radius is 5. And it wants us to leave the pi. So what is 5 times 5? 25. There's my answer for the area. Area is equal to 25 pi. What's the units here? It looks like it's meters. Okay? And they would be squared because it's area. Isn't that kind of funky that you're trying to figure out how many squares would fit inside of a circle? Okay. Approximate the area using 3.14. So they're basically saying, what is 25 pi? Okay, so this is still 5 times 5, and then this one wants us to use this. So what is this? When I times out 5 times 3.14. I did that earlier on a calculator, and I got 78.5, and it's still meters squared. So these two answers are pretty close to each other. This one's exact because pi never ends and never repeats. This answer in its exact form goes on forever. Okay, where this is just a close estimation. The area, it's about 78 if you're going to go to Home Depot and need to buy tile to tile your floor. Okay, so these are the exact answer and a pretty close estimation of what 25 pi really is. Let's see here. Find the square feet of lawn if the circle has a diameter, so diameter of 23 feet. Okay, let me start with my rule. My rule is area is equal to radius squared pi. Okay, but this right here says it's a diameter of 23. How can I find my radius? Okay, well, let me think back. It said over here that if I have a diameter, I need to cut it in half to get a radius because a radius goes from the center to the edge. So let me do that on a calculator. 23 divided by 2, I think it is 11.5. 11.5. Okay, and that is what is my radius. 11.5 from the center to the edge. So that's the number I plug it in for the R, and for the pi. Okay, so I would multiply this out on a calculator. Get my calculator out and I'd do 11.5 times 11.5. And that would give me 132.25 pi. That's my exact answer. If I'm a scientist or if I'm going to need to go get gold leaf that's really expensive, I would need exactly this amount. But most of the time, we just need to know, what about is that? Okay? Exact answer. And to approximate it, where the pi is, I'm going to put in that 3.14. I'm going to multiply that out. I'd really want to be reading here to figure out what they wanted me to round the answer to. So this is 1415.265. So this is feet. So if they asked me to round it to the nearest tenth, it would be 0.3 feet to the tenth. If they asked me to round it to the hundredth, it would be 0.27 feet squared. Okay, that's to the hundredth. So if they didn't ask you to round it at all, if they asked you to round it to the nearest tenth, we would want to make this a 3, 6 or more, 5 or more up the score. And if you wanted to round it to the nearest hundredth, you would leave it a 27. And last one down here, estimate the area using 3.14 for pi. Now, notice this is not a whole circle. It's only a half of a one. Let me make this bigger over here so we can actually see it. It has a diameter of 40 going across here. So I'm going to need to do 40 divided by 2 to know that the radius from the center to the edge is 20. So the area of a circle, and I'm going to pretend like for a second it's a whole circle. The area of a circle with a radius of 20. So my rule is radius squared pi. So this would be 20 times 20 times 3.14. It said to use 3.14 for a pi. So I'm going to multiply that out and let's see what I get. So 20 times 3.14 gives me 12.56 millimeters squared. Okay, and I tried that on the computer and it said it was wrong. Well, that's because that's for a whole circle. That was defined as this whole one, and all we have is a half of a circle. So I have one extra step. I need to divide that answer in half. When I divide that answer in half, I get 628 meters squared. Why am I dividing by 2? Because it's a half circle. So I only have half as much area, obviously. Okay, be careful of your rounding. Let me know if you need any help with that. Thanks.